Hi, welcome back to my channel pibyme Maths. This is by WST01. In part 1 and part 2 of this statistics video series, we learned how to find the mean, median, mode, lower quartile, upper quartile, range and interquartile range of type 1 and type 2 data. Now in this video, we will be looking at type 3 data. Now third type of data, you will get either one of these. Don't worry, you won't get both the type. You will get either one. The first one is without gap. If you look at it, 55 to 65, next class interval starts from 65 and 70, this one starts from 75. Whereas here, this ends at 65, next one starts at 66. This one has a gap here. As a gap here also. So this is a group frequency table with gap, this one without gap. You have to know this. You can't just ignore it and start finding the lower quartile, median and all. So you need to pay attention to this little detail. Whenever you get a class interval, first thing you need to do is check whether it has a gap or not. It has a gap here, this one without gap. So I'm going to explain few terms here. The first one is class interval. This every range here given here is called class interval. So there are 4 class intervals here. 4 class intervals here. And then the next one is class boundaries. For this one, the data without gap, the class boundaries are 55. Just take the extreme numbers. 55, 65, 65, 70. If they ask you to find the class boundaries of this one, it's 70 and 75. You can just straight away write the extreme numbers. Whereas here, you cannot just write the extreme numbers. For example here, that if they want you to find the class boundaries, you take 66 and this number find the average. So for this one, it's going to be 65.5, 70 and 71 find the average, 70.5. So for this class interval, the class boundaries are 65.5 and 70.5. If you write 66 and 70, that's wrong. And for this one, it's going to be 70.5, 75.5. And here, 75.5, 90, though there is no next number, if you look at all the intervals, you are either adding 0.5 here or subtracting 0.5. So if you add 0.5, it's going to be 90.5. So for the first one, it's 65.5 and subtract 0.5 here, 54.5. So these are all the class boundaries. Here you can just take the extreme numbers. Here you need to find the average of this number and the next number and take it as the class boundary for this one. Now the next term is class width. To find the class width for the first table, it's very simple. You just subtract them. So the width, class width is 65 minus 55. 70 minus 65, 75 minus 70, 90 minus 70. That's the class width. It's very easy. Whereas here, you need to remember this. To find the class width, you need to subtract the values from class boundaries. Here, these are all the class boundaries. But in this case, these are all not the class boundaries. You take the class boundaries and subtract them. So you get 5 here, 5 here, 15 here, but for the first one you will get 11. You see, your class boundaries are changing now. The class width is changed now because of the class boundaries. So remember this, these are all class intervals, and to find the class boundary, you need to check whether the data you are dealing with is a data with gap or without gap. So find the class boundaries. Always subtract the class boundaries to find the class width. So we learned about class intervals, class boundaries and class width. Now we are going to calculate the x. This is frequency. The number of times it's happening is a frequency. X is the midpoint of class intervals. Midpoint of class intervals. How do you find the midpoint of class interval? You need to find the midpoint of these two. So you just add these two, divide by 2. So when you add 120 by 2 is 60. So here it's going to be 67.5, 72.5. Do not guess the midpoint. Always add them, use your calculator, add them and divide by 2. So this is going to be 82.5. I'm going to use my calculator to double check. 82.5 is the midpoint here. Whereas for this one, to find the midpoint, always use the class boundaries. Use the class boundaries and find the midpoint. So you need to add them, do not subtract them. You need to add these two values and divide by 2. So we got the midpoint of this data. Add these two values and divide by 2. Surprisingly, if you take a look at it, even if you add these two numbers and divide by 2, you will get the same one. You can check. You divide, multiply, add these two, divide by 2, you will get 68. Here, 146.73. But it doesn't matter. I would always advise you to use the class boundaries to find the midpoint x. Now, why do we need x here? Because to find the mean, the formula is the same as the formula we used in type 2. Sigma fx over sigma f. Sigma f is sum of this. Fx is you need to multiply f and x and draw another column, multiply these two and find the summation, divide them. That's how you find the mean. So we are going to find fx first. F times x, 180. This times this. So we have multiplied f times x and written the values here. Now you need to find the sigma of this and then sigma of f and divide both, you will get the mean. So the sigma of this is 5115 and the sigma of this is 71, divide both. So the answer is 72.04, etc. Again, depending on which curriculum you follow, just round the number to 1 decimal or 2 decimal or 3 significant figure. So we are going to do the same thing here. Take f, multiply by x and find fx. Sum of fx, sum of f, divide. Here sigma f is going to be the same 71, but sigma fx is 5149. So mean x bar is going to be sigma fx over sigma f, which is 5149 over 70. 72.5. So if you look at these two mean, they are almost like close to each other, right? Not like a huge difference. So that's how you find the class boundaries with the midpoint and the mean here. Now to find the model class, same like type 1 or type 2, you need to look for the highest frequency here, 30. The corresponding class is a model class. To find the mode of this group frequency table, there is another formula. We will discuss that later. I haven't seen that mode of this group frequency table in any one of this PSN or CAIE curriculum. So probably if you want, I can make a separate video about it. Now to find the model class, it's very simple. Take the highest value here. The corresponding class is a model class. It's going to be the same for this one. Take the highest value. So the model class is going to be 71 to 75. That's how you find the model class. Now the next thing we are going to learn here is finding Q1, Q2, Q3. Lower quartile, median and upper quartile. To find these three, we need to learn something called a linear interpolation method.